Welcome to another edition of Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the official LFC Lingerie Fighting Championship podcast. My name is Mike Larkin, and joining me today is director, is writer, is LFC photographer, Mr. Miles Long. Miles, it's a pleasure and privilege. How are you?
He's around here somewhere. I'll go get him. I don't know where he is. Hey, how's it going?
I cannot complain. First and foremost, it is an absolute pleasure and a privilege. We've been talking about wanting to do this for a while, and the fact that we're finally getting a chance to do it is awesome, so I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks very much.
You're very
I'm
welcome.
looking forward to it too because the girls really like coming on the show, and I get to hear them sometimes. I think Bella was on your show here in my house. You know what I mean? So it was nice.
Well, first and foremost, it's a pleasure and a privilege. And speaking of your house as well with the girls, beautiful photos, man. Absolutely nicely done. Talk about that shoot because everything came out spectacular.
Well, I think people have kind of picked up on the fact that I really love to take photos, and I've kind of developed my own little niche and style of photography that seems to trend really well, not just for box covers and magazines and stuff, but it's Instagram safe, it's Facebook safe, it looks really good, the girls really look good, but it's also really good for marketing a wide variety of stuff. So that's one of the things that's helped me transition to a lot of mainstream work. You know, I do billboards for casinos and nightclubs and gun companies and diamond merchants and cars, and I've been fortunate that I just kind of shoot what I like to look at, and it turns out other people like to look at it too.
Of course, I think from the artist perspective, man, it's that imagery. And like I discussed with the show Beauty, Strength, and Dominance, the three key elements that make women the work of art that they are. It's that eye, it's that appeal that really showcases the woman from an imagery standpoint and through their overall being.
Absolutely. But really, I'm just capturing what's already there. I'm just trying to show it off in the best light possible.
My goodness gracious, you absolutely did. One name that you mentioned there, T. Bella Madison, and we saw her and Bella Rockefeller night just at LFC 35.
Yeah.
Fighting behind the scenes on your shoot. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I really enjoy, keeping it light and making sure. I think part of the key elements for shoots is making sure the girl is in a good mood and making her feel comfortable, because that's when you get her best, And I've seen other photographers, and a lot of times I hear the girls talk about other photographers and say, "Oh, he said I was a bad model," or he said I didn't know how to pose. And I'm like, well, first of all, if the photographer takes a bad picture of you, it's not your fault. It's the photographer's fault. It's his job to make you look good. So if he can't do that, it's not your fault. You know what I mean? So I think that's a key element. You make them feel good. You make them laugh. Whatever it is that the girl likes. Like if she has a favorite color Red Bull, it's there for her on set. If she has her favorite gummy bears, it's there on set for her. Her favorite dance music or whatever, it's playing in the background because we want to help her feel as comfortable and vivacious and beautiful and sexy as she already is. And then we get her best out of her so I can give my best to everyone else.
Agreed wholeheartedly. I look at it from a stance as well. I think the two notions that you actually said so eloquently there, it's all about accommodation and comfortability, because that just not doesn't pertain to shoot, but just in general life with people, accommodation and comfortability works wonders.
That's right. That's right. You always get more bees with honey, So that's very, very true.
Now, I have to ask you, because we were talking about the girls from T. Bella Madison to Bella Rockefeller. One name I have to ask you about that shoot. Sheena, the Hungarian Hurricane Bathory, made her debut at LFC 35. My goodness gracious, what a specimen, Miles.
Yeah, and she's awesome. And the funny thing is we hit it off because I've been to Hungary, I think 3-4 times to shoot for extended periods. So much to her surprise, I speak a fair amount of Hungarian, and a lot of it is curse words, which gets a great chuckle out of Sheena, but also most Hungarians, because that language, while it's very beautiful and flowery, is staccato pulsed with a lot of bad words during normal conversation, So, and the funny thing is, you wouldn't know it if you don't speak Hungarian. I think my favorite insult I learned while I was over was "Megleszel bosvasanat hatan te pasoporuhat kurva," which means, even though it seems very flowery like a compliment, I'm gonna fuck you from behind on the back of your mother, you cocksucking fucking whore. so as soon as I flower that off, girls just laugh hysterically, and they're like, "Oh, he's really cool. Can't wait to shoot with him." So we've got along famously. And then, when I after the event, I made a few phone calls and set up a comped table at a nightclub, and all the gals came out, and she had just a fabulous time because she's never been to a big nightclub like that with, a VIP table and bottle service and stuff. So all the gals were really appreciative of that as well.
Well, that's the thing, going back to the accommodation and comfortability side of things, but also at the same time, like when you're in Las Vegas, it's the fight capital of the world. There's so much in Las Vegas, including the adult industry, which we'll get into. But god dang, man, it's the accessory, it's the accommodation. Everything that is showcased there is wonderful to make such great events.
Yeah, I really like it here. I always knew that I was going to retire here in Vegas, even when I first started coming up here in 2000. And so in 2001, I had bought a house up here, but I was still working down in Los Angeles where the preponderance of my work was. And then in the mid 2000s, it just seemed like it was pointless to be down there anymore. Up here, not only did I knew I want to retire here, but everything that represents what's important to me as a person, it's here. It's business friendly, it's corporation friendly, it's veteran friendly, it's gun friendly. You can go out at 4 a.m. if you want to have a really nice steak dinner, you can do it. If you want to see shows, they're here. If you want to see concerts, they're here. If you want to go to nightclubs, they're here. If you want to go snowboard, it's 40 minutes away at Mount Charleston. If you want to go right out in the desert, all of those things are available to you here. And one of the things that sold me is the state is so veteran friendly that every year the county sends you a property tax rebate in the mail for being a veteran. Now you could do that in California, they just don't. So that was like an easy sale for me, you know what I mean? So I've always loved it here, and I'm just very fortunate that I kind of bought at a very good time many years ago. And then I was on the other side of town, and I thought to myself, if I don't hurry up and buy the house, I want to retire, and I'll never get around to it. So, I sold my house in L.A. and bought an estate with the same amount of money. So I think I did okay.
I think you did. And it's funny because I was in Vegas for a short period of time. I did the ring announcing spot for the LFC show, and I'm like,
you did a great job too.
well, thank you, Miles.
I was right there next to you, so that was really cool.
I truly appreciate that. And I saw you there on the other side of the camera. You were doing your thing. So here's the thing. You and I are one of just many who got the best seats in the house for that event, man.
Well, ain't that the truth, right?
Oh, my goodness. First and foremost, I'm going to say this right now. I got to give a shout out to the ring girls as well, because those girls, muy bien, spectacular, beautiful ladies, but they did their thing as well, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, my God. From top to bottom. Now, we're going to get into the show in a second here, but here's the thing about Las Vegas that I love. I was only in there for a day or two, but here's the thing. It's like you never want to leave because here's this, here's that, here's casinos, everything at your fingertips. Sure. But it's like, God dang, man, the weather's nice. It's cool. It's like I never want to leave this place.
Yep, that's absolutely the truth, and they pick up on that, and they're trying to provide you with every possible thing that you would be interested in doing, so you don't have to leave. So it kind of works out for us, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I got to say, going through the airport, because there's you got to take the tram, and then there's a shuttle bus and stuff, and I'm just like, all right, that's the thing, learning just the Vegas experience, being my first time. I got to say, many more experiences and memories to come. I definitely want to come back, and I look forward to it. We'll definitely do something more when I'm in town. You and I will definitely get together.
For sure. Yeah.
And that's the thing about LFC as well with Las Vegas. LFC has done events at Sam's Town. Now, I want to ask you about this because the FS Arena has a lot of prominence to it, from Killer Cross, from LA Knight, Eli Drake. Professional wrestling is a lot of talents that have gone to WWE and etc. What did you think about the venue?
I really like the space, and what's nice is not only is it a nice space, it's everybody that was there was really nice too, and you really can't put a price on feeling comfortable wherever it is that you're working or you're hanging out and stuff. So, and that was my first time being at that space, but everybody was very welcoming, and it's set up well so that you can film the right angles. You can see the crowd, but you can also see where the wrestlers enter, and there's good lighting, so there's no weird dark spots or light spots and stuff. So it worked out really, really well, I think, for everybody.
Agreed wholeheartedly. And here's the thing that I have to ask you, because I love the fact that we're all like under this one big LFC umbrella, the LFC auspices. What really kind of gravitated you towards LFC? And I know you and T-Bell and Madison have a great relationship, and you worked with a lot of the girls. But god
Sure.
dang, it's great to see you under the LFC auspices. What really kind of gravitated you towards the LFC?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, but I've known Sean Donnelly for many, many years
Oh, wow.
from back when he and I were both working in Los Angeles together. And so, our relationship goes back, I mean, God, like 15 years. So it was really convenient. He had known that I was up here from the girls and stuff. But what was the real linchpin is when they had their events at Sturgis. Most people know I'm a huge car and bike nut, and I build all my own vehicles, and they're all show vehicles that have been in booths at SEMA and CES and have won awards, and they're sponsored and stuff. So I had a really tricked out dual bottle nitrous kit drag chopper, and it had always been a bucket list thing for me to trailer that up to Sturgis and ride around there. So it just worked out that this year was the year I decided I really got to go do that before I get too old and I just don't want to trailer the bike that far, and go ride. So he found out I was going up there, and he was like, hey, can we use you to shoot some of the event stuff and the B-roll, because I know you know the girls and this and that. And it just worked out great. It was so seamless that we were like, man, why didn't we think of this sooner?
Well, I gotta say, some things come to us, and patience is a virtue. And this is one of those times, man, because I gotta say, besides the photos as well, guys, if you've not been on the LFC Instagram page, like the photo that you have inside the venue with all the girls is just spectacular. And you have that look that you always have on your face, like, and it's just, it's great look.
Living my best life smile. That's what that is.
I point that out because every time I see your photos, man, it's that, like, look, and I love that because it's fun, it's vibrant. Oh. But no, I look at it from a stance too as well. You are one of the people. What I love about you, Miles, is you're just the person who just loves what they're doing, and they're living, like you said, your best life. So from the adult entertainment industry to LFC and everything in between, god dang, man, when it comes to the adult entertainment industry, there's so many different forms of it, different genres. I got to ask you about it, because here's the thing. A lot of people, when they talk about the adult entertainment industry or LFC, they kind of have that kind of look on your face. But I'm like, if you actually really get into it and you don't judge a book by its cover, it's like actually learn about like what goes into it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think, at its core essence, you can never, I mean, some people will look at it with a stigma from the outside, but yet they're still a consumer of the product, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at the product for its basest marketing appeal, our job is to make people happy. So no matter how you slice it, you really can't look at that job in a negative way. We don't hurt anybody. We genuinely care about the people we work with, and we genuinely care about the consumer who's going to use our product. And so if your core job value is to simply make people happy, that's not a terrible job, you know what I mean? And I'm lucky. I started out in 1999 in front of the camera, and I blinked a few eye blinks, and it turned out it's 21 years later, and I ended up making a career out of doing something that I love and that genuinely makes other people happy. So it's been an amazing life.
I look at it from a stance too as well. Here's what's cool about it. Like you talk about making people happy. At the end of the day, it's all about emotions. It's about evoking emotions in whatever art form that you have. And if you're putting a smile on people's faces, hell, even if you're making them sad or mad, the evoking emotions part is really what makes it.
Mm-hmm. Certainly, So I'll never look back on my life and go, well, I wish I'd have done this or I wish I'd have done that. I've been one of those people that said, no matter what it is, if I wanted to try it, I'm going to try it. I'm going to go do it. I may look back on it and go, well, maybe I don't know if I do that again, but I did it once and it was awesome, and that goes through, parachuting and, scuba diving and everything else that turns into a hobby for me.
And that's the thing too, because I look at it from a stance as well. When it comes to the adult entertainment industry, and as a kid growing up in the 90s, we had the Naughty Americas. We had all those different types of sites. Hell, Cinemax at like 2 o'clock in the morning, Nicole Sheridan and Willow. For those that remember. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yep.
So that's what we had at the fingertips. And I think it's one of those things too. Isn't it amazing to see how we've gone from movies and watching the TV, the golden age in the
Sure.
80s, to where we are now, where it's just like we have our streaming sites, we have this. Everything is
Yeah.
so like at our fingertips with the technology.
Yep. Yeah, the marketing, the funny thing is the content doesn't change, but the platform it's marketed on and how you monetize it constantly evolves, just like any technology and any other sort of market space. I remember being on Playboy TV when cable TV was really the media platform of choice. And then they also had ancillary other platforms like selling DVDs. And even before that, I'm dating myself, but selling VHS cassettes, that was the original marketing platform when I first got into business. And I watched it evolve through, the battle between HD, DVD, and Blu-ray, for example. Then I watched the paradigm shift as people started to look at websites and streaming content as a primary source of revenue. And then a lot of people failed to evolve, right? And they ended up not having the foresight so that their business could evolve with them. And they aren't here anymore, and other people took over, right? And then they went from websites to more streaming media. And now streaming media seems to be more niche focused, where the individual girl can monetize her own content on whatever platform she's doing it on, for example. And so it's really interesting to watch that shift. I always liken that to surfing. It's a good analogy. When you go surfing, if you look out in the ocean, there's 30 guys sitting on boards talking, and then you see two guys who look back and say, "That's my wave over there," and they start paddling. And in business, you want to be the two guys who are surfing, not the 30 guys that are sitting on the other boards watching two people surf. And it doesn't matter what business you're in. Just so happens we're talking about our market space, but it's true. If we were talking about hi-fi audio, you watch the paradigm shift, right? Started out with 8-track, then it went to cassette tapes, then it went to CDs, right? And then there was a bunch of formats people tried, and they didn't actually go anywhere. Whether it was digital audio tape, or there's all these different little formats that people tried to evolve with. And so you got to kind of stay with this. Remember laser discs? There were laser discs too, you know what I mean? So there's all these different platforms, and now really none of those platforms are so relevant because you're streaming it. It's on your Roku box, or it's on your hard drive, or your Netflix, or your whatever. So you just got to kind of stay ahead of the curve, and you got to be able to look forward like surfing and see the wave before it gets to you and start paddling.
Agreed wholeheartedly, and perfect analogy. And it's funny that you mentioned VHS, because I'll tell a funny story. So as a kid, when Hollywood Video was still in fruition, for those who remember Hollywood Video and Blockbuster.
Remember those, the Hollywood Videos and Blockbusters?
So I remember going in, and around the time, remember Spider Babe, which was like the porn parody of Spider-Man at the time?
Right, yeah.
I remember seeing that on VHS there, and I'm like, oh man, because I remember like a week ago it had just debuted at the time on HBO at like midnight, and I lost my mind. And mind you, my mother was there in the store, and I'm like, okay, I could be a real dick and just like try to sneak it, but I'm like, you know what? No, I'm not going to do that. You know what I was? But yeah, that's the stuff. And you just seeing that particular film in like a Blockbuster or a Hollywood Video, it's like that's what we had back, and I just rent that.
Right. Yep. Remember that?
And that's the thing too, like from the Spider Babes and many porn parodies as well. Isn't it amazing just to see? And I know we'll talk about porn parodies here, but god dang, man, like from your favorite TV shows and everything essenced in pop culture into the adult realm, and how well that's doing.
Yeah, and on top of that, if you think about it, a lot of times the test market, or the beta market, if you will, for a lot of products or new technology, or different platforms to revenue stream on, it's always sort of in the adult market space. And if it makes it there, then it kind of branches out from there, because initial websites that were paid websites were adult market space websites, and now they've kind of branched off into other market spaces for other products. And the same thing has gone with streaming content, right? So if they didn't see the platform work for us, then they wouldn't be doing even VR. I remember trying to shoot VR, or field of view content for many years, and we tried a lot of different platforms, whether it was two cameras fixed in a cage where we were going to try and time sync them and then fix it in post. There was all these different things. They tried with the 3D glasses that you would have to wear, and we finally got it down to now that there's a technology platform with the Oculus, and you can actually look around and see the environment that you're looking at the footage in. It's starting to blossom, but we've been exploring that market going back into the 90s. Just really weren't able to make a go of it. But every time somebody had a technology idea, they beta tested it in porn first. And then if it went somewhere, they're like, okay, now we're going to try it over here. But then if it didn't go anywhere, they're like, okay, that was a bad idea. Never mind. We'll go back to the drawing board. We'll try it again.
And that's the thing too as well, because here's the thing, when it comes to life and just in general, if it doesn't work, you got to try it again. And we see a lot of that when it comes to LFC, when it comes to so many different genres. Here's what's cool about LFC, man, because it's Lingerie Fighting Championships. It's right in the title. We've had the LFL, Miles. We've had the Lingerie Football League. Stuff
That's
like
right.
works because it's women in their lingerie playing football, kicking ass and taking names. Same with LFC. Like,
man, those guys, they hit hard too. I've seen some of that. They're like, that's no joke.
That's the thing, and people always want to focus more. Like, I'm like, you also have to understand, people, like, sex appeal is not dead. You can still be sexy and kick ass at the same time. I don't focus more on like sport.
Even with the UFC now, some of the most enjoyable fights to watch are the women's because they are trying to win. A lot of the other fights now are nowhere near as enjoyable because just like boxing, it's not enjoyable to watch somebody fight for a 10-9 round.
Mm-hmm.
We want to see somebody try and win, whether it's submission or you're knocking them out or whatever. Like we want to root for somebody, and the way you can do that is by seeing somebody really making a ton of effort to try and do whatever it is they do.
And it's also it's the whole, we're going to tell a story, because that's what we're doing all. We're telling a story. And the thing when it comes to wrestling and stuff like that, it's great to tell a story, and that's awesome to put in the work, but where's the story behind it? You know what I'm saying? I just don't want to watch two guys or girls fight. What's the story behind it? It goes in adult film.
That is so true. And let me tell you, because I was fortunate enough to shoot a multi-part documentary originally, many years ago on the two WWF, before it even became the WWE, storyboard writers that wrote the week-to-week scripts that became the events that the WWF and then later the WWE prosecuted with all of their stars. And I was just floored at how much went into that, how much they scripted the stuff, how far they forecasted out, what stories they would sort of interweave to make things become more interesting and have somebody really latch on to a particular character. And they would even plan when somebody would turn heel from being a good guy, or maybe go back to being a good guy from being a bad guy. It was absolutely fascinating. It was like one of the most interesting documentary series that I've ever been a part of.
And that's the thing too, because a lot of people don't realize from the creative side of things, like it could be June and WrestleMania is in April. Here's what our main event's going to be in April. And it's like, we're only in June right now. But at the same time, it's the thought process, it's the meticulous and how we're going to blur it out. And it's wonderful. And it's amazing to see. But at the same time, people don't realize, and I'll include you with the adult entertainment industry, what goes on in front of the camera and behind the camera. You don't realize a lot of work that really goes into it.
Yeah, there's so much pre-production work and planning and storyboarding and stuff. That's what I found so fascinating, because I had only been a consumer, right? You go to the events and you watch the guys wrestling, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. And then when I got to see, sort of like the Wizard of Oz, the curtain got pulled away, and they were explaining everything that went on behind for the last year, for the last 6 months, the last 3 months, the last month, in order to get to that event. I was literally floored. I was like, wow, that is absolutely fascinating. And it also showed the business savviness of the whole organization as well. I was like, man, it was a lot of newfound respect because of that.
Agreed. And I mean, people talk about, like I mentioned, the term golden age. Like the 80s, we had the rock and wrestling connection. Here's Cyndi Lauper and Captain Lou Albano.
Girls, yes, remember that?
Yeah.
I still remember that, man.
It's great. But the problem is, a lot of people don't realize this. It's good because, WCW and ECW, they're out of business. WWE is the only game in town. There's so much wrestling now, that competition, it's all healthy. And they're on YouTube and stuff. It works. And it's a nice blend.
Yep. And remember the original top rope flyer, Jimmy, the Superfly Snuka. You remember that?
I do. The Superfly Splash, Don Morocco, 83 in the
yes. In a lot of ways, wrestling pioneered a lot of things that people didn't think you could do originally. You know what I mean? Flying off the top rope, or being lowered into the ring, on wires and stuff. Just all kinds of interesting, different ideas of how to. And then sometimes you look at the UFC now, where people are sort of going after each other and throwing stuff at buses that are going by and stuff. You're like, wait just a cotton picking minute here,
Well, I gotta say, over the years, it's been a nice blend and transition from MMA to wrestling and wrestling to MMA for so many different stars. And I mean, the women's mixed martial arts with the LFC, man, like every girl, and you saw it just from filming and just seeing, every girl was badass and they killed it.
Yeah.
Same time, man, it's Halloween night. I gotta ask you, and I'm gonna do this. Who do you felt the best costume and lingerie for the Halloween night?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. I really enjoyed, though, Sheena's outfit, because she did the whole ghost thing, and then they actually wore that stuff to the club afterward. You know what I mean? So that was actually pretty cool. But I also really liked the masked wrestler who turned out to be somebody different than who we all thought was. You know what I mean? So that was pretty cool too, because it was really nice to see the extravagant and lavish outfit as well. So.
Well, that's the thing, man. It's Lucha Lingerie, La Scorpion Volcana, the main event. Controversial twist. Won't give some spoilers, but definitely check out the event, main event.
Yes, definitely check out the main event. You'll be surprised.
Absolutely. But no, that's what makes it too as well, because the Lucha Libre culture, from the aerial and the dynamics that really make it up, we made that mix, but we made it sexy at the same time. And Lucha Libre has been around for X amount of years, man.
Forever. Yeah, absolutely. And so it was nice to see that sort of intertwining into the event as well. So.
And also with a title like Booty Camp, you really can't go wrong, Miles. I mean, we got the prospects and we got the veterans and we got Booty Camp, man.
And we had plenty of booty, let me tell you.
I also got to say, one of the girls who did make her debut at a Booty Camp was at LFC 31, and is one of your girls, the one and only Shelby Paris, Shelby the Panther Paris. I want to ask you about working with her, because you've had some exceptional photos with Shelby as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate because I've been able to take a lot of pictures of a lot of girls. And what that made me learn was how to make people feel comfortable. So it's always, like I said earlier, been my goal to try and bring out their best and just kind of capture their sort of inner essence, their inner sexiness, and bring it out into the cameras for everybody else to see.
And that's a wonderful thing as well. And I mean, with the AVN Awards, we're going to talk about this, because a lot of people, whether it's in front or behind the camera, the most prestigious stage in the adult entertainment industry is the AVN Awards. Talk about just being nominated, getting the awards, just being at the event, because it's a pageantry in itself, Miles.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting. And, I think it can be overwhelming the first couple times you go, because the red carpet line is so long, and there's a broadcast line where they're doing TV interviews, and there's so many photographers vying for a picture of you and the people that you're with. So it takes a little practice, just like anything else in life, to get comfortable and walking girls, because I make a point to walk with more than one girl. So usually there'll be 4 or 5 girls with me, and I got to kind of choreograph everything so all 5 or 6 of us are looking at the same photographer at the same time, and then we move to the next one, and then we move to the next one. And I've gotten quite good at doing that, and it also gives me a chance to showcase the girls that I'm with when we're on the broadcast line and doing interviews. So it's a nice way to sort of take care of the friends who have taken such good care of me throughout the year, and I'm just flattered that people notice, because I'm one of those guys that just minds my own business, stays positive, and just works as much as I can. And every time I shoot, I have the philosophy that I try and shoot every scene like I'm trying to win an award. And that way, I've, again, got the best out of the 2 people. And for me, I don't like putting widgets together. There are some companies that would just go, let's just take widget A and widget B and put them together because we haven't done it yet. My philosophy on shooting this stuff is that I put 2 people who really want to be together, and then I film it, which is why there's such intensity and chemistry to the stuff that I catch, right? Because those people wanted to be there anyway. It just so happened I got them to open up so I could see it and film it well, And that philosophy has kind of borne out very well now. I mean, I don't think there's any halls of fame left for me to be in. So I'm four-time Hall of Famer and, a bunch of awards and, a whole bunch of nominations. So I've been very fortunate. People have noticed that my philosophy has borne some fruit.
Well, I think what really gets me about you, and this is what I love about you, you're very multifaceted. And I think that's awesome. From the writing, producing, and directing, and everything being in front and behind, you have to be like that. And I know some people like, well, why don't I just stick to this? It's like, no, if you can branch out and expand your horizons, that is not just for careers, that's for life, man. Get to experience more and open yourself out and put yourself out there.
Well, and I think also what goes hand in hand, and maybe some people don't realize if they only focus on one area of expertise, is what I noticed was being a performer helped me be a better cameraman, helped me be a better DP, helped me be a better photographer. And when I became a director, it helped me be a better director. And conversely, or I should say, just in the same way, when I became a director, it helped me become a much better performer. When I was a photographer, it helped me be a much better performer because I realized what it is the other person was trying to get from me, and I was able to do it better. So it's like a circle. Each one feeds the other and helps you become more well-rounded at whatever it is that you ultimately want to be your sort of primary area of expertise.
Oh, agreed wholeheartedly. And I think what's also very cool about that with area of expertise, like we talked about POVs, we talked about parody and the different genres and subsets with the adult entertainment industry. Man, how cool is that for the consumer? Because there's so many different preferences, there's so many titles. It really just opens up to the uniqueness of one's human being.
Well, and plus this way, whatever it is that is your, sort of bailiwick or thing that really turns you on, guaranteed somebody else has thought of it and it turns them on and they're shooting that particular content that's a niche for you, which is even better than you settling for maybe something that you're going to look at just because you couldn't find what you were looking for. And I think that's the beauty of how the market space has opened up so much. And there's a lot more niches and styles of content available. So no matter what it is you're into, you don't have to get, steak and potatoes if you really want grilled cheese or you really want, salmon. And that's kind of nice.
You're kind of just described every pervs out there when they're searching through the X videos or whatever site it is. It's like, I guess we'll settle for this. Right?
Yeah, I mean, try it sometime. If you go to one of those big tube sites and you type in the most, oh, nobody would be into this, and you type it in, there'll be some content there, and there'll be people who have viewed it, and you're like, wow, it really does true. Like whatever you're into, aside from stuff that we obviously it is illegal, there'll be somebody else who's into it, and they'll be making some content for you.
Oh, great. And I look at it from a stance too. And like we were talking about the uniqueness in people, it's amazing to see such markets, whether it's the adult entertainment industry, whether it's LFC, that really catches on to one's eye. And I got to mention this because Sean put this out on social media. I read the article. Holy hell. Did you like this article about
Yeah, but it's great because maybe it wasn't originally written in English, or maybe the person who transcribed it, English wasn't their first language, or maybe they mentioned it in another initial sort of a way, but they were representing us very well. And you could look at it the other way too. Sometimes spelling errors or upside down pictures or Easter eggs, as we call them, are done on purpose because it made you stay longer and read the rest of it. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's why they did it. I don't know.
I had a laugh because I also look at it from a stance too. And I mean, Ice Cube's son, when you see Straight Outta Compton and they're in the club scene with Eazy-E, any publicity is good publicity. So, hey,
and that's what I wrote. You know what I mean? Press is press. I put it on the reply from the Facebook post because I thought it was great.
And I mean, well, the best thing about it too is like LFC has had so many reviews, whether it be good or bad. And I look at it from a stance too. There was that old RT Sport excerpt that they did on their YouTube. LFC, is it exploitation or is it, And here's the thing about that too: entertainment or exploitation. It's a topic, but at the same time, it's like it's got its eyes on the product, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely it. You know what I mean? And I really just, it depends on whether you look at the glass as half empty or half full, right? Because if you're looking at it half empty, you're positive, you're negative, and if you're looking at it as half full, you're positive, and it's two sides of the same coin. but it's still the same content.
Agreed. And I like what I also love about you too, Miles, is the positivity side of things. And I think a lot of people need that positive reassurance or just really just have to stay positive because, I mean, life is a pain in the ass at times and there's going to be obstacles, but y'all can overcome. You have to look at it from like just straightforward instead of taking a step back, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's so important. I've tried to live my life that way only because, there's no way of replacing that time you spend if you spent it in a negative way. So, regardless of the trials and tribulations that you have in life, maybe things didn't go exactly the way you planned or the way you wanted, but you still learned something from it. So you can always look at that and go, well, actually, it wasn't really a negative. It was a positive. I learned something. Maybe I learned that I won't do that again, but I still learned something from it. So if you keep that mindset and you try and surround yourself with like-minded people like that, it's much easier to keep that sort of positive environment, which I think is so important, especially at work, let alone your personal time. But especially if you have a choice, if you got to go to work, you want to be in a positive working environment, and everybody else appreciates it when they are too.
Agreed. And I think that's the amazing thing about life lessons and lessons that we learn. Now, I'm going to bring this up to you because social media is also one of those things. And we see social media that is included in the adult entertainment industry. Now, there are guidelines for certain sites, Instagram, what have you. But God dang, what do you think about social media's effect on the adult entertainment industry and life? I mean, out there, it's the fingertips, but social media is just woof.
Sure. And, I think I've tried to impart that vibe of positivity and sort of my positive mental outlook on life, even in my social media posts, because it's very rare for me to say something negative. And it's usually because, some airline canceled 3,000 flights and we're all stranded. So on behalf of everybody, including myself, I might say something because then they'll get their act together. But besides that, literally, I'll only be positive because we should be trying to be nicer to people just in general.
Mm-hmm.
And it's contagious. If you put a smile on somebody's face today and he had a bad day, maybe he's going to go home and he's going to put a smile on his wife and his kid and his dog's face. And then, it's just going to keep paying forward. So I always tried to live my life that way because it is very easy to get sucked into that negative space, especially in social media, because a lot of people are very negative and they mistake the attention they get from being negative as good, and I think we would be in a far better place just worldwide if we were all just a little bit more positive and just a little bit nicer.
Oh, agreed wholeheartedly. And first of all, I will say this, and I learned this at a very young age, and Mama did not raise no fools. I'll tell you that. If you got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. Number one, and number two, again, the positive outlook. Because what a lot of people and now everybody nowadays wants to do, I'll put it like this: visual. Instead, we can do this. United, not divided. Everybody just wants to do.
Yeah. People are too easy and too quick to be confrontational or just to take offense, and maybe you just weren't reading, because it's really hard if you're reading words to read the intent behind them or what somebody's mental state was when they said it, and it would be a lot easier if you just cracked a joke instead and tried to make light of the situation and put a smile on somebody's face instead of being confrontational back. So I try very hard to be that way, and hopefully it's rubbed off on a few people over the years, and the people around me and the companies around me and the talent around me have rubbed it off in a positive way as well.
I think it has, and it definitely does show within your work and your overall being, Mr. Miles Long. So a couple of things I want to add before we close this out. Miles, you and I are definitely going to do a round two for this. Like
I can't wait. It seemed like we were just talking for 5 minutes, and I looked down at the clock. I'm like, oh my God, it's almost over.
Like I said, here's the thing, folks. Whether it's an interview or in life, don't waste time. Time is of the essence. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we. Now, I'm going to ask you, because we mentioned social media and the influx with the adult entertainment industry. I wanted to ask you, because we have sites like ManyVids and OnlyFans have really been out into the forefront. What do you think about like sites like that have really become prominent and really popular nowadays?
I think one of the best things about those format sites is that it really gave some power to the talent or performers that they didn't have before that, right? Before that, the old business models, you got to sit at home and wait for the phone to call where somebody said, come to this set and we're going to shoot you for this. And so that could mean something good if you're very famous, and it could mean something bad if you didn't work as much, right? But then when the advent of performer-based platforms came forward, it gave people the opportunity to shoot what they wanted, or maybe their individual fetish that they like, or focus on a kink that is not really portrayed in the mainstream adult content market space, and flourish, which is very kind of liberating if you think about it. I mean, there's quite a number of people that I know that heretofore had never been in the adult market space before COVID. And I'm speaking of people who are VIP hosts at nightclubs, cocktail waitresses at restaurants, places where all of a sudden they didn't have a job and they were used to a certain level of income because they were getting tipped well and they were very beautiful. And while they would maybe never have sex with somebody on film, they could open, a Just for Fans and show some of their fans who liked them and saw them at a nightclub, or saw them at a day club, or saw them at a pool place, or saw them at a restaurant, something that was a little bit more intimate, but they could do it from the safety of their own home, and they could do it on their own schedule, and they could make ends meet before that. And on top of that, it showed them that maybe this isn't such a bad thing. The adult market space maybe isn't such a bad thing, because there was a lot of people who got into it because of COVID that realized, wow, this isn't such a bad way to go, actually.
I think COVID and everything that had to do with the quarantine really got our creative juices to get flowing,
Yeah.
and it's great to see that from a business side of things.
Yeah.
And I will say this, I mean, it does add a lot from the community side of things, because you get to be a fan, you get to subscribe, and you get to see
Sure.
some of your favorite people.
Sure. And also maybe you feel a little bit more connected in a more intimate way than just seeing them on a DVD, where you see them do their thing, but you don't maybe really know anything about them, right? A lot of these fan-based platforms will let you experience something that's maybe a little bit more immersive, because you get to see her going to the gym, or you get to see him working out, or you get to see her, splashing in the pool with her dog. So you know them a little bit more intimately than just their work on film, so to speak.
Oh, agreed. And I think that's what's great, not just in OnlyFans and many vids, but in life, to really get to know a lot of people and really open up and really just develop relationships and just friendships, man. It's a beautiful thing, this thing that we call life. Now, Miles, before we close this out, I'm going to say first and foremost as well, LFC 35 Booty Camp 3D. Check out Miles. Check out myself as the ring announcer. Check out everybody on LFC personnel doing their damn thing. Go to lingerifc.com. If you have the replays up there, it's $19.95. Get yourself there. Become a VIP member. It's women in lingerie. It's LFC. Bay Hey B and Miles Long. Please promote Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Everybody can find you on all forms of social media.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter. It's at Miles Long for real, and that's the number 4 and REAL. And it's the same thing on Instagram. It's the same thing on Facebook. My personal Facebook is Mr. Miles Long. And if you are a car nut, or you like pretty girls next to cars, or you're a bike nut, or you like cool stuff and really funny memes, we have a private Subaru group, but it's not just about Subarus. And it's called the Subi Society on Facebook. And if you join that, you're going to have a really good time, because a lot of my gal friends are there, but also my friends from all over the world who are into cars, or into bikes, or into fast things, or into memes, or, into knives, or all kinds of tools. And so it's a much more broad-based little niche that you can have a good time in, and your wife's not going to give you a hard time for it either.
First and foremost, this son of a bitch right here added me to that a while ago, and I saw that. That group is awesome, man.
It's like, there's some funny motherfuckers in there, right?
Jesus Christ. I go to my notifications, and there it is, and I'm like, Jesus.
And the girls are guilty of it all, man. The girls there, they just make the funniest jokes, man. And we have a very strict no trolling policy, so there's no rude people, there's no mean people, there's just nice people.
Great. Just have fun, tell some jokes, and have some fun. Get some laughter, man. Get yourself.
Yeah.
So before we close this out once more, I do also have to add one final question. Man,
Sure.
you've done a lot in your career. You've done so many things. From your expertise and your experience, what advice would you give to someone who wants to do in your field, directing, filming, getting into the adult entertainment industry? What's that one piece of advice you would give them, Miles?
Be relentless. Be relentless. Because there's going to be in life, there's going to be people who tell you you can't do something. When I got in the business, there were people who told me I wouldn't make it as talent, or make it as a photographer, or make it as a director, or make it as a producer, or make it back as a POV performer, 20 years after I got in the business. Don't listen to them. Because the reality is when somebody tells you you can't do something, what they're telling you is they can't do it, not you can do it. You got it? So be relentless. If you have a dream, pursue it. Do it wholeheartedly. Work harder than everybody else. Get up earlier, stay later, and don't take no for an answer. And you'll find you can make your own dream come true. You don't have to wait for somebody else to make your dream come true. You can do it.
Keep your eyes and ears open, my friends, because that is a piece of advice right there. Beautifully said, Miles. And lastly, before we get on out of here, beauty, strength, and dominance, the three key elements that make women the work of art that they are. I talk about it. Miles Long takes pictures of them. And that, my friend, is why we make a great team, Mr. Miles Long.
Happy to be here, man. I'll come back anytime. Thanks so much for having me.
Very welcome. From Miles Long, my name is Mike Larkin. We'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.